What's up, guys? It is Friday, September 16th, and it's 3:33 p.m. So let's start with the daily newsletter. All right, so first off, we got Swift possibly testing Ripple technology through Symbiont's assembly platform, only a matter of time for XRP. So Swift is putting the blockchain to the test in order to communicate company actions. So this was a new release out of Swift that they're using Symbiont. So right here, Swift and Symbiont announced corporate data blockchain pilot. So they're going full in the blockchain. So the messaging system processes over 5 billion transactions a year and seeks to maintain its relevance by integrating disruptive technologies to its business. They're using this more for, I think it's like data documents. So bringing Symbiont's assembly and smart contracts together with Swift's extensive network, we're able to automatically harmonize data from multiple sources of a corporate action event. Think like stock splits and everything like that. So not technically for cross-border payments or anything, but it still shows that they're softening up to utilizing blockchain within their systems. So Swift is put in the blockchain, and then we saw that Symbiont creates Ripple gateway for counterparty XCP. So Symbiont actually uses Ripple as a gateway for it. So everywhere you go, those connections are there. And then CBDCs will be the future of the monetary system, not Bitcoin or gold. Let's hear it.
Prefer that, but yeah, I think it'll be, again, pretty similar to what Teddy's saying. I think it'll be similar to what it is today. I think it will be digital, so I think it'll be a central bank issued digital stablecoin. I don't think it will be Bitcoin. I don't think it will be gold. I may prefer that, but I don't think that's going to happen. And so, again, to what Teddy's saying, I actually think there will become an event at some point in the next 10 years which kind of resets the whole system. And then I think maybe some of these imbalances will be taken off the table in one way or another as a result, and then a central bank issued digital currency will replace it. Yeah, I think it'll be...
So he said reset. So everybody knows that a reset is coming. And then New York Museum of Modern Art considers buying NFTs with proceeds of $70 million auction. And then the European Central Bank, a digital culture is crucial to transformer supervision. It encourages innovation and facilitates the process of adopting new technologies. So let's see if we can find anything in here. Nope, nothing that stands out in this, so we'll keep going. So South Korean prosecutors are now formally seeking the arrest of Do Kwon. He was the Luna founder, and rightly so. And then Ripple, our partnership with Travelex Bank, marks the start of crypto-enabled payment solutions in Brazil. With 780 billion plus in payments sent into Brazil annually, crypto will facilitate more affordable, faster cross-border payments. See how our solution will help. Then what Bitcoin market fragmentation means for its future. It makes the token less liquid and less fungible. So what does that mean? Let's see. If global Bitcoin market fragmentation were to remain unaddressed, it could hold back the market's maturity. If crypto markets were regulated like commodities markets, then there would likely be capital reserve requirements that prevent lending institutions like Celsius from over-leveraging customer deposits. All right, we're not going to dive into that. And then Dan Pantera from Pantera Capital shares what areas will onboard billions of people into crypto in 5 to 10 years. Let's watch it.
Billion people are using it.
So what are the unlocks? What are the next frontiers? We had DeFi, so the finance guys were like, oh, this is interesting. I can do some stuff. Then we had NFTs, which brought some creators in. What are the next kind of frontiers where you're bringing in a whole new different class of users?
Yeah, so that is a good point. That originally it was just kind of like.
I trade some coins and go up and down. And
yeah, people, very focused on the tech. But NFTs are fun. It's bringing a ton of people in that, wouldn't otherwise know about it. Gaming's another great example. Bringing a whole community of people that are now getting, to be exposed to blockchain more generally and spread that out. The metaverse is a great way to, have people be entertained and communicate and build community. So all those bring new types of participants into the community. It's helping broaden out. And obviously over the years there's all kinds of other use cases for blockchain that'll bring in new users. And in particular, I really think it's important that you have governments like China promoting blockchain and the US Fed's building one. That's going to bring literally billions of people into blockchain within the next 5 or 10 years.
Does that pump up?
Billions of people, guys. Billions. So there's not enough of these tokens to go around. And then finance giants join forces to launch crypto exchange, which is huge. You had Charles Schwab, Citadel Securities, Fidelity Digital Assets, and a couple other big institutions have joined forces to launch EDX markets. And I believe it was supposed to be testing and piloting in November. And yeah, so it was testing and piloting in November, and it's going live in early 2023. So that's right around the corner, which shows us that there's going to be, and they're preparing for a huge demand flowing into crypto. And then Portugal is considered both a crypto hub and tax haven, but lawmakers are eyeing a change. And then Google Cloud and BNB Chain partner to provide technical support for crypto startups. And then BlackRock, Fidelity, and KKR prove that this bear cycle is different from the last one. We're seeing real world adoption. Let's hear it.
Seeing. And if you talk to the operators like myself and the amount of work we have to do and the amount of interest and calls we get to tokenize things, that is complete disconnect with the actual asset prices that you're seeing. And what's really different about this cycle versus the 2017 cycle is in 2017, the previous cycles is really crypto native projects coming and developing on each cycle. In this cycle, just recently we've seen the real world adoption, not just at, KKR with Securitize and Avalanche, but BlackRock, partnering with Coinbase, and you've got Fidelity now talking about opening up to retail for their massive base of clients. If you talk to the operators like myself and the amount of
we do have that real world adoption, and he said the disconnect between asset prices and all the adoption going on, and pretty soon here I think the adoption that's been happening, the prices will catch up to that. And then crypto's disruption to banking will be bigger than the internet's to information. We talk about going from the internet of information to the internet of value. So let's hear it.
The internet busted the monopoly of information control. Information was controlled by governments. It used to be controlled by the church. Then it was controlled by governments, and government state-owned media and state-influenced media. And that was busted wide open. And commerce was bigger than media, and that got disrupted by the mobile net. Well, the truth net, I used to call it the trust net, but we're replacing trust with truth. So I like truth net better. And the truth net takes value and banking and financial services and derivatives, which are orders of magnitude bigger than commerce. I mean, as big as Amazon is, it's tiny compared to global financial services. I mean, tiny, because that's not true. I'm like, just do the math. And this disruption that's going to occur and is occurring isn't going to stop. The internet.
That's what we've been talking about. This is bigger than the internet of information. We're talking about a whole kind of innovation in the way that money, financial assets, the global financial system works. So big opportunity. And then we have congrats on your launch. Construction accounts for nearly 40% of greenhouse emissions, and companies like Carbon Title will play a vital role in helping to decarbonize the sector. So it looks like Ripple might be tied up with Carbon Title. And then, are you ready for what is about to happen? Pay attention.
Will revert to zero. Everything will go to zero. It's a cyber crash. So the White House will crash everything, including the stock markets, everything. In this event, everything goes to zero. But like a phoenix rising out of the ashes, gold and silver will revalue along with XRP and XLM. So XRP is backing gold, and XLM is backing silver. So after the event, what has value is gold and silver, XRP and XLM, and the other ISO 2.2 coins. They'll have massive value, and so will the assets on Lobster. So essentially, you talked about BlackRock. I own lots of BlackRock. I own lots of Vanguard. I own lots of well-known companies because all those companies have had their assets seized, and they're laying them out as tokens on the Stellar network. And if it wasn't true, then all these big companies would be up in arms and saying it's a lie. It's not true. No one is. I mean, I own a lot of BHP, a lot of mining companies. One, because that's going to be huge after the event as we rebuild, but you don't see any mining company, saying it's not true. So that tells you everything you need to know. So this is definitely seized assets, and people are positioning themselves. Those who are awake, those who understand and resonate with it, they're positioning themselves so that they can take advantage of the wealth transference. But it's not a greed mentality. You've got to get this right. If you come into this with a greed mentality, you're going to do some silly things. This is about the wealth transference. I've always said to people that if you invest $500 worth of XLM into these seized assets, you're going to set yourself up for life. $1,000 worth of XLM will set up you and your generations. Anything above.
Interesting. So then we have billionaire Ray Dalio as a gloomy prediction for stocks. Mere increase in rates to about 4.5% would lead to a nearly 20% plunge in equity prices. So that's why we watch the bond yields. So it's at like 3.4, I think it is, 3.4%. So a rise to 4.5 would lead to 20% plunge in equity prices. Then this is Chris Larsen. He was the co-founder and executive chair of Ripple in May of 2021. Let's hear what he says.
Why hasn't XRP gained the kind of traction that so many people thought it would a couple of years ago? What's held it back?
Well, I think, frankly, it's regulatory clarity. We have a lot of regulatory clarity in key parts of the world. In Japan and Singapore, the UK, Switzerland, UAE have deemed XRP a currency. And that's good. We need that clarity, and it's being used, utilized in very effective ways that are helping humans. But in the U.S., 10 years in, we still don't have that regulatory clarity, and that's holding back the U.S. Market for crypto. That's unfortunate. So
why has XRP been singled out, Chris? Why have regulators seemingly singled out XRP and Ripple?
That's a good question. It's perplexing in many ways. XRP was declared a currency by Obama's Treasury in 2015. It's been out there in the wild now for almost 9 years. Hundreds of billions of dollars have traded. So it has utility. So we think that was a perplexing move that happened literally on the last days of the Trump administration in the SEC, for example. But we're hopeful that we can get that clarity in the U.S., and then that will allow the U.S. to be rightfully the number one when it comes to fintech, crypto, just like it is with every other part of the internet.
There we go. And then Gensler took the hot seat on Capitol Hill yesterday, so he did a testimony. And then Ethereum's classic hash rate has tripled in size since the merge was triggered by Ethereum's Paris upgrade. So now Ethereum Classic is seeing the miners kind of flock to it because now they can't mine Ethereum. So Ethereum Classic may do well because of that. Then XRP best buying zone, fractal regression bands. Whenever XRP is below the purple band, it was indicative for best buying opportunity. XRP right now is below the purple band. Do not think twice and keep on dollar cost averaging, not financial advice. So let's see. So below the purple, great buying opportunity, great buying opportunity, great there, great there, great there, there. And like out of 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the 5th best buying opportunity in our lives of XRP. It's perfectly clear there. So where this resides is probably around like 40 cents. If we can get back above the purple, then it's game on. Because every single time we get back above the purple, usually we do go on a good rally. So there, and then there. Here we went up 3x. Here was a double. Here was when we went up to over $2. And now we're gearing up here. So that's very interesting to see. And then we have the BIS Innovation Hub and Hong Kong Monetary Authority are launching Project Dynamo to investigate how DeFi can improve financing for small to medium enterprises, a vital yet chronically underfunded sector in most countries. So there we go. BIS activated always. And then Gary Gensler owes investors and innovators alike more clarity on how he intends to apply SEC governance regulations to digital assets. Let's hear.
Apply the existing. So I think the problem is that the SEC isn't sharing with us the framework that they're using. Gary Gensler famously argues that virtually all crypto tokens are securities. I think reasonable people can disagree with that. He would exempt Bitcoin from that classification, but pretty much everything else he says is a security. But then he doesn't go on to say how we would apply the existing frameworks that we use to regulate securities issuance and trading to a very, very new and very different technology where some of these things don't fit, right? Custody rules, clearance rules, these things don't have any application. And he hasn't provided any clarity on that. I think actually Congress should step in and provide some guidance. I think crypto is sufficiently different, even if you want to argue that these tokens are securities. You go ahead and make the argument, but you can't dispute that they're very different from a stock or a bond, and therefore Congress ought to step in and provide a framework. I'm working on that. That's going to be really hard to get done. In the meantime, Chairman Gensler owes us much more clarity on how and why he intends to apply SEC regulations.
There we go. And then the merge is a significant step forward, bringing Ethereum into the mainstream, and it marks an evolution of blockchain technology. And then we see nothing has changed in the macro view. Although we're experiencing a sudden drop, everything is ready for a point of trigger. So this is the monthly chart. And we usually, when we go into these bear markets, we go below the 20 level, we form a descending channel. And as soon as we break up above the channel, then we go off in price. So we can see back in 2014, 15, that's what happened. 2018, 2019, exactly what happened. And now we're doing the same thing in 2022. And we're getting close to the top of that channel to break out. So everything looks like we're about to start the run right now. And then the Bank of International Settlements, the Basel Committee, reports progress on evaluating the impact of Basel III reforms, advances work on addressing climate-related financial risks, and improves annual GSIB assessment. So SEC has liquidity concerns, changed regulations to claim all things were done to prevent this, wonder what the end game will be. So this was September 14th today. The commission is proposing amendments to designed to improve transparency and lower systemic risk in the $23.3 trillion market for U.S. Treasury securities. By increasing the number of transactions subject to central clearing, these amendments should help strengthen the U.S. Treasury market and make it more resilient to unexpected shocks. Let's see where it says liquidity. All right, so this reduction in market visibility carries implications for systemic risk, especially in the context of market disruptions. In October 2014, the Treasury market experienced unusually high levels of volatility and liquidity became significantly strained. In March 2020, the global spread of COVID-19 significantly disrupted the market. Even as recently as February 25th, 2021, the price of Treasuries dropped sharply amid strained liquidity conditions. And then the 2022 Global Crypto Adoption Index Top 10. So we have Vietnam number 1, Philippines, Ukraine, India, the United States at number 5, Pakistan for 6, Brazil 7, Thailand 8, Russia 9, China 10. There we go. And then we have CFTC Commissioner Christy Romero joined Perry and DC this morning to discuss the cryptos and industry's regulatory riddle. Let's hear it.
Any type of policy questions. So who's network? Commissioner, I'd love to get your thoughts. Are there any policy implications of this? This is probably one of the biggest kind of infrastructure shifts we've seen happen in this industry. Does this trigger any type of policy questions?
So who stayed up till 2:45 in the morning? Raise your hand. Oh my God.
People with
should we
cups of coffee.
Should we give them just a minute to go get another cup of coffee?
Network.
All right, so Gary Gensler, yep, we know that. The Central Bank of Argentina recently issued a set of rules to heighten the level of protection users of popular digital wallets in the country must receive. So new compliance rules for digital wallets. Then ETH bottom structure. Have you noticed how Ethereum market structure looks when it's gearing up for a big upward move and how RSI interacts with its 14 SMA at the same time? Does ETH have something up its sleeve? So this is the whole history of Ethereum. You can see similar structure, go, similar structure, go here. And then same thing over here as well too. And every single time we have that breakout, the RSI goes above the moving average, just like here and just like now as well too. So we'll have to see, this will play out within the next couple of weeks. And then PolySign actually just launched on Link2 today. And Link2 is a platform to buy private equity, and you can only do it if you're an accredited investor. But PolySign is huge because PolySign is working on a next generation custodial solution for digital assets, and Ripple's involved. David Schwartz is involved. He's the CTO of Ripple, and same with there's another guy as well too, who was one of the original co-founders of XRP as well. That's a part of this, that's building this. I think it was Arthur Brito. So they launched today. So it seems like PolySign's getting ready to actually publicly launch as well too. And then Iran signs a memorandum to join Asian security body SCO, founded by Russia, China, Pakistan, and India are also a part of it. All these countries are gearing up for a big move and a big transition away from the US. Then JP Morgan estimates a $4 trillion total addressable market for the metaverse in China from converting offline consumption across physical goods and services. Could reach $4 trillion just for the metaverse. And then you don't have to go to MIT to know what's about to happen. This is Brad Garlinghouse.
The largest institutions, Joey and I sat in a meeting not that long ago with, some of the largest institutional money in the world trying to get smart about crypto. They owned zero on that day. I don't know if they do today. But as they enter the market, you have fixed supply, increasing demand. You don't have to go to MIT to know what's going to happen.
Exactly. And that's been the methodology that we've been following. Limited supply, unlimited demand. With a limited supply of these tokens, hard capped in their code, and with this market being so new and innovative, disruptive, and institutions still looking to join into it, you have a huge flow of demand coming with a limited supply of tokens. You do the math, right? So you don't have to go to MIT to know what will happen from that. Then very similar Bitcoin momentum identified with MOM indicator. You can see the similarities from back in 2021 of the market bottoming out in July to right now as well too, and I believe the same thing. And then China tells Russia willing to work together as great powers. And then U.S. Treasury to recommend creation of digital dollar if in national interest. And actually, the U.S. came out with regulation framework today for digital assets, and they did recommend the creation of a CBDC. So game on. And we already know the Digital Dollar Project in partnership with basically HBAR, but it's Emergo, and then Ripple as well too. We see the writing on the wall. And then we see we are now burning more ETH than we are issuing. So ETH is now in a deflationary kind of cycle. So the amount of ETH that's being kind of issued, more supply, there's actually more being burnt. So actually the amount of ETH that's going to be kind of issued onto the market and release is actually going down. It's negative. So that will definitely contribute to a pump in the long run. So the pair is progressing in this triangle for years. This is ETH against Bitcoin. It might be time for Ethereum to go crazy after the ETH merge. And we can see this big triangle since 2017 calling up right now. And it could fly. This could fly. That could mean that Ethereum could be worth the same as a Bitcoin with this target, even more. That would be crazy if Ethereum was at 20K or $30,000. Then the stablecoin that Simon Dingle and Kenny Ings founded in 2021 is reportedly South Africa's only bank-approved and audited stablecoin. And then Chamber of Digital Commerce to file a amicus brief in Ripple versus SEC. So they're hopping on board with kind of fighting for Ripple on this. And then we have another chart here. So usually the more extreme the conditions, the closer we get to a cycle top or a cycle bottom. Bitcoin is currently in extreme market conditions. We can see Bitcoin chart, we see this indicator down here. Every time we go below this level, bottom. Every time we go extremely high on this level, top, top, top. Below the level, bottom, top right there, top right here, and then right here, bottom. You do the math. You don't got to go to MIT, right? So Ripple lawsuit, two things that may impact crypto space in the near future. So there's the library case and Ripple summary judgment are upcoming here. Then the introduction of new forms of digital money, whether public or private in form, is irreversible. And given that money touches everyone and everything, its implications are enormous. The Digital Pound Foundation, CBDCs, stablecoin tokenization, the race is on. So that's that article here from the Digital Pound Foundation. World has never been in a better position to end the pandemic, says who? And then IMF shares the real riddle for stablecoins, cryptos, and banks. All right, let's hear it.
Decentralizing. After the global financial crisis, trust in banks was at an all-time low. Crypto assets were created as an alternative way to make payments, democratizing and decentralizing finance. Basically taking power away from banks and putting it in the hands of the people. The idea was that they were going to fundamentally change the world of finance with their decentralized ledger technology, the blockchain. So, what's the catch? Without backing assets or central authority, crypto assets seem to be really, really volatile. That's great if you want to gamble, not so great if you want to pay for something. Because how can you really pay for something with an asset that isn't a stable store of value? Enter the stablecoin. A crypto asset built on the blockchain, but usually with a centralized issuer. While the value of crypto assets like Bitcoin is determined by supply and demand, stablecoins aim to have value by being pegged to another asset in one of two ways. The first is by backing the stablecoin with another asset, like the dollar, the euro, or even a commodity like gold. In theory, keeping a one-to-one parity. But wait a minute, doesn't this go against the founding premise of crypto? Maybe. Some authorities are looking to regulate the bigger stablecoins the way they do banks and other traditional financial institutions. Now, here's the real riddle. If these stablecoins are regulated like banks, don't they end up becoming the banks that crypto assets were meant to replace?
The government seems to be also waking up to this notion that, hey, listen, we need to get moving here on creating proper regulation. There's also a lot of regulation, at least talk, around the stablecoin aspect of it. And how great would it be if every bank in the United States issued a stablecoin on a blockchain? Now that would connect it to real world society and solve real world problems.
And that's the key. That's the key right there. So it's probably nothing. 2017 peak to 2019 bottom compared to our current 2021 peak to our current 2022 low. And we can see the similarities are exactly the same from the top, same level, to the bottom, same level. And we've already completed our second low. So we have our initial low, our second low, initial low, second low. And then what's next is a slow grind up to breaking out of this trend line that comes down. And then this is where Bitcoin ended up a few months later around this area. So if that were to kind of repeat for the 2021 peak to 2022, we could see Bitcoin by the end of the year around 40 to 50K. 40 to 50K. And that would mean
after the global financial crisis,
that would mean altcoins are exploding. So local exchange trading system need XRP to be cheap to be. All right, we're going to skip that. So on October 11th to the 13th, Stellar is holding their conference. And then in November, Ripple's holding theirs. So this is who's going to be there. WireX, ARF, Circle, Fireblocks, MoneyGram, Nuum, Ultra Stellar, Wire. So I'm sure there will be a big announcement there. And then we see this. So what if suddenly Saudi Arabia announces thanks for the memories USA, petrodollar synthetic global demand ends abruptly, sellers of the US dollar explodes the world over, US dollar comes flooding back into America, flood of new dollars drives hyperinflation in US, Federal Reserve unable to raise interest rates enough, US financial markets and economic activity crashes, top down or bottom up, one master organization, global agenda, digital currency, ruling group, or 200 plus sovereign nations, independent currencies, and local leaders. Talks about DLT with this. Then it says when the Federal Reserve fails, suddenly it will be replaced. The King Dollar became the world reserve currency in 1974 when Henry Kissinger guaranteed Saudi Arabia full U.S. military protection in exchange for all oil transactions occurring in U.S. dollars, hence the name petrodollar. This agreement is dead. The owners of the private, foreign-owned, centralized, corrupt, debt-enslaving fiat currency central bank system will not control the new era. Distributed ledger technology, monetary platform will reset wealth. So there we go. That's what we've been saying. The end of the petrodollar has huge implications for the dollar as the world reserve currency. And then China Z says we'll back Pakistan on safeguarding national independence. And then fixed supply increase. We watched that video. And then a security is something that represents ownership in a company. It gives you rights to dividends, gives you rights to governance, things like that. If XRP is a security, it's a security of what? XRP is not a security. Let's hear it.
A security is something that represents ownership in a company. It gives you rights to dividends, give you rights to governance, things like that. The amount of misinformation on this one, I think, is also profound. If Ripple, the company, shut down tomorrow, the XRP ledger would continue to operate. So if XRP is a security, it's a security of what? XRP is not a security, and I think that as time goes by, that'll become clearer. So I don't spend a lot of time worrying about that.
You seem pretty relaxed about it.
I actually am pretty relaxed about it, because I think the facts are on our side. A security is something that represents ownership in a company. It gives you rights to dividends.
Egypt's central bank has warned about all cryptocurrencies. Violators could be imprisoned or fined. So I've shared this multiple times. Worth a read if you haven't. Let's hear it. So a world without the West. In this world, described in a fictional letter from a future head of Shanghai Corporation Organization, SCO, new powers supplant, and I just read something about SCO, Iran joining it. So new powers supplant the West as the leaders on the world stage. The U.S. feels overburdened and withdraws from Central Asia, including Afghanistan. Europe will not step up to the plate and take the lead. Russia, China, and others are forced to deal with the potential for spillover and instability in Central Asia. The SCO gains ascendance while NATO status declines. Anti-China antagonism in the U.S. and Europe reaches a crescendo. Protectionist trade barriers are put in place. Russia and China enter a marriage of convenience. Other countries, India and Iran, rally around them. The lack of any stable bloc, whether in the West or the non-Western world, adds to growing instability and disorder, potentially threatening globalization. October surprise. In this world depicted in the diagram of a future U.S. president, many countries have been preoccupied with achieving economic growth at the expense of safeguarding the environment. The scientific community has not been able to issue specific warnings, but worry is increasing that a tipping point has been reached in which climate change has accelerated and possible impacts will be very destructive. New York City is hit by a major hurricane linked to global climate change. The New York Stock Exchange is severely damaged, and in the face of such destruction, world leaders must begin to think about taking drastic measures, such as relocating parts of coastal cities. BRICS bust up. In this world, conflict breaks out. China and India over access to vital resources. Outside powers intervene before the conflict escalates and expands to a global conflagration. The clash is triggered by Chinese suspicion of efforts by others to threaten Beijing's energy supply. Misperceptions and miscalculations lead to the clash. The scenario highlights the importance of energy and other resources to continued growth and development as a great power. It shows the extent to which conflict in a multipolar world is just as likely to occur between rising states as between older and newer powers. Interesting. So this is a testimony of Gary Gensler. I have asked staff in working to register crypto security intermediaries to recommend a pathway to allow both in crypto security and crypto non-security tokens to trade versus alongside one another. Then liquidity is an ocean with fish large and small. I got two real quick questions. Does transition away from retail to institutions mean that we will see retail market phased out? And if so, will XRP holders be able to continue to hold XRP without restriction? Thank you in advance. Liquidity is an ocean with fish large and small. Many varieties needed for an ecosystem to thrive and grow. Yes? So he works at Ripple, or did work at Ripple, so we don't have to worry about a restriction of XRP for us. Then there was a meteor spotted over Scotland the other day. I thought that was crazy. But Russian companies choose which cryptocurrency they want to use for international settlements. And we already know which is the fastest and the cheapest to send. So in the US, XRP is held by only 3% of investment portfolios. In contrast, Litecoin by 6%, Ethereum by 10%, and Bitcoin at 45%. XRP originated in the US and is held 4 times less than it is held in Asia. Why? It's all about the monopoly and regulatory uncertainty the SEC created. Very true. So there we go. And then Vladimir Putin's limo attacked an assassination attempt amid Ukraine war. And then there's like a freight train strike or something. The Amtrak is canceling all long distance trains starting tomorrow, September 15th. Then she finds the Ripple case interesting, just not interesting enough to help them. Let's hear it.
The Ripple. What's your top concern, your top priority? What are you watching the most in the next 6 months to a year? Kristen, did you want to start?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm actually like, probably the thing I think is going to be most interesting is the Ripple case. That's moving this fall, and we're going to be hearing arguments because that's one that's been out there for a while. It's further along than any other, other item on the litigation agenda. I think from the congressional perspective, we don't have many days left. There's going to be an election. There's a small chance something could get some momentum and get done, but I think it's mostly unlikely. And so I think that's really next year. So I'm more interested in what's happening, with enforcement actions and litigation.
What's your top concern?
So we'll see. We'll see if it's next year or this year. But Ripple's in a position that I compare to Amazon, straight from the CEO. So we are the leading enterprise blockchain company, period, full stop. Ripple is in a position that I compare to Amazon circa 1997. Books is to cross-border payments for Ripple. So like Amazon started with books, but then they got into everything. And that's exactly what Ripple is doing. They've already got cross-border payments down. Now they're getting into everything else. Then Citigroup, Vanguard joined Swift in blockchain corporate actions trial. So examining Swift corporate blockchain trial news, Swift is using Symbiont's blockchain assembly to create a golden record of corporate actions for asset transactions. So the Chamber of Digital Commerce's amicus brief is very helpful for Ripple. I wasn't expecting this, to be honest. And so they filed that brief to help Ripple out. And then Oracle's Ellison pushes multi-cloud interoperability and digs at Amazon. So the multi-cloud era has begun. Our job is to give our customers the ability to choose the application and infrastructure technology from multiple clouds, and then have those different clouds coexist and interoperate gracefully. So we're heading to a world where everything's interoperable. And the trade in rupees could boost Indian exports to Russia to about $5 billion in the current financial year. That would be up from $3.3 billion last year. So India's trade with Russia and rupees to begin soon. So ditching the dollar and trading with their local currencies. So India's trade with Russia and rupees will soon start as top lender State Bank of India has agreed to facilitate the new mechanism, and I believe their State Bank of India is partnered with Ripple. And then ex-Ripple exec, XRP will hit $100 someday, he said, not sooner. Institutions' first priority when considering crypto as a security is considering crypto is a security, not profit. So that's what they're looking at. And that's why we haven't seen institutions in the U.S. dive into XRP yet, because of the case. As soon as that case is over, you're going to see a flood go into it. And then testifying in front of the Senate Agriculture Committee, CFTC Chair Benham says his agency is getting ready to take on the role as the chief crypto regulator in the U.S. That would be huge. And then 95% of people are barking that stock market will crash, but let me tell you one thing, stock market will hit new all-time highs in the next 6 to 7 months, and 95% plus people will cry because they sold the bottom and they will buy the top. Federal Reserve will save the market. So maybe the Fed pivots and they actually cut interest rates or just leave them unchanged, and that will signal to the market that the raising of rates is over, or they're starting to become more dovish, not hawkish. Then Iran is joining the Asian Security Body Organization led by Russia and China. Huge news for context. Russia, Iran, and Qatar account for just under 60% of the world's gas reserves. China's President Xi told his Russian counterpart Putin that Beijing was willing to work with Moscow to support each other's core interests. And then the space will evolve, and our partnership will enable us to be a part of the journey. Financial services giant Old Mutual appointed manager of South African stablecoin project Cash Reserves. You can see that right there. And then Mike Novogratz, this past Monday, CEO of Galaxy Holdings, one of Fidelity's first crypto clients, said at a conference, "A bird told me that Fidelity, a little bird in my ear, is going to shift their retail customers into crypto soon enough." And we did, in fact, get that public news. And I shared it in the Discord 5 days before it was public. Then CFTC already preparing to be crypto watchdog. And then the IMF climate coin. I'm going to do a separate video on this, but this was huge, huge. Fortnite creators Epic Games lists the first NFT-based game on their store. It's called Blanco's Block Party. That might be interesting to get into. Then we have how Brad Garlinghouse made Ripple the industry's unlikely champion. Brad Garlinghouse is a keynote speaker at the Mainnet conference in New York next week, September 21st, 3 o'clock, so that'll be interesting to hear. Then the Senate Agriculture Committee held an important hearing today on the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act, a bill to regulate crypto spot markets. Announcing Atma.io, Avery Dennison's partner with Hedera, by the way. So this fall release with new features delivering deeper raw material traceability insights and enabling brands to be more sustainable. This is totally ran on HBAR. And then another huge update. You guys are going to make sure you're doing the security update on your iOS devices, your iPhones, your Macs, Apple Watches, whatever it may be. But there's another potential huge security vulnerability, so make sure you update that. And then the ECB, European Central Bank, has selected 5 companies for joint prototyping of user interfaces for a digital euro. So we got CaixaBank, Worldline, EPI, Nexi, which I think is tied up with Quant. And then you have Amazon stepping in. So that's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And that's it right there. And then last year, Songbird was launched. So since then, 43.5 million transactions completed, 22.9 million blocks produced, 385,000 wallets registered, and 1.6 billion Songbird rewards were generated, and this is just the beginning. So it's been 1 year. I'm sure we're going to hear something out of Flare soon about them launching. And then framing the CBDC revolution, universities in Sweden and Turkey seem like they are studying the XRP community tweets about CBDCs and multi-CBDC arrangements. Why are they analyzing XRP, MCBDC, and tweets? Let's see. Number of references by username. The number of references by username on CBDCs is given in figure 4. BIS org Ripple surpassed the other usernames by a large margin. That's funny that they're Twitter's sociogram that they're analyzing that. White House says a U.S. CBDC has the potential to offer significant benefits, and they release a framework for crypto regulation in the U.S. We always said 2022 is the year of CBDCs and regulation, and that's exactly what has panned out all year. The White House releases a crypto regulatory framework, so let's see it. So with crypto adoption on the macro rise, regulators have keenly been keeping an eye out on the space. They examine the risks and benefits of cryptos and report their findings. The current framework is a response to these findings. U.S. stance on CBDCs have been sort of muffled until now. However, it looks like the Biden admin is all set to take a step closer to a digital currency. Notably, the Federal Reserve will continue its ongoing CBDC research, experimentation, and evaluation, more so because the digital dollar could enable a payment system that is more efficient, provides a foundation for further technological innovation, facilitates faster cross-border transactions, and is environmentally sustainable. It could promote financial inclusion and equity by enabling access for a broad set of consumers. However, it was also emphasized that the digital dollar should be created only if it was in national interest. Here, it is also worth recalling that Fed Chair Jerome Powell previously stated that the main incentive for the U.S. to launch its own CBDC would be to eliminate crypto's use case. You wouldn't need stablecoins, you wouldn't need cryptocurrencies if you had a digital U.S. currency. I think that's one of the stronger arguments in its favor, and that's not entirely true, and he knows that. So it talks about stablecoin, illicit activity. The president will evaluate whether to call upon Congress to amend the Bank Secrecy Act, anti-tip-off statutes, and laws against unlicensed money transmitting to apply explicitly to digital asset service providers, including digital asset exchanges and non-fungible token platforms. The president is also considering whether or not to raise penalties for unlicensed money transmitting with respect to what will follow next, the fact sheet read. Treasury will complete an illicit finance risk assessment on DeFi by the end of February 2023, an assessment on NFTs by July 2023. Footnote. So Brian Dees, director of the National Economic Council and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, said in a statement that the new guidelines were meant to position the country as a leader in governance of the digital assets ecosystem at home and abroad. Things are picking up steam, that's for sure. And then new, so happy to share a CBDC report, the most comprehensive report to date on CBDCs, presenting the economic, political, and technical issues in relation to institutional, academic, and practitioner research on CBDCs. Just want to see researches in computer science and economics on blockchains. Capgemini. All right, so we're going to skip that. So in a presentation on the progress of the ECB's explorations, digital euro program, said that payments to and by governments, as well as person-to-person and consumer-to-business payments, were the 3 use cases being prioritized. So government to government, so central bank to central bank, person-to-person, retail, and consumer-to-business payments. And then the official green light for U.S. CBDC testing. Let's get to work. And then the White House, this is the Digital Dollar Project, the White House encouraging further research and global coordination for CBDC and newly released framework for international engagement on digital assets. Very good. So I'm gonna tweet these so you guys can see them. Focus remains steady. Promote development of digital asset and central bank digital currency technologies consistent with our values and legal requirements. So the White House unveiled a new framework on regulating digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, which includes increased oversight and exploring the creation of a potential digital US dollar. European Central Bank selects Amazon to develop its digital euro e-payment system. And Japanese SBI set to launch Ripple-based mobile app called MoneyTap. And then U.S. Justice Department set to launch a unit focused on crypto crime. And then realized price is essentially the cost base for the Bitcoin network, and it's at currently 21,400. You can see the significance of realized price during Bitcoin bear markets. So this was the past. You could go a lot below it, and then when you're like kind of just sideways on it and you start to break away from it, that's when it's on. And then right here you go below it, and then you break away from it, it's on, below it, break away, on. And then as soon as we get above 21,500 and have heavy momentum, it's on. And then XRP, a unit of account. Who's these guys? Shout out to XRPville. Let's hear it.
What effect will your patent have on Ripple's XRP, and what opinion, if any, do you hold on the case between Ripple and the SEC? You're free to answer that as well as or not. It's up to you.
Well, I have a history with the SEC and with the actual prosecutor that went after Ripple. They're not my favorite people, the enforcement arm. But with that being said, XRP itself is a token, it's a unit of account. And I explained the real investment opportunity is the infrastructure, not the unit of account. Okay. The SEC is doing something that's unprecedented. They're suing Ripple, they're suing Ripple's founders, and they're suing the XRP holders. Or basically, they're attempting to say the XRP itself is a security and not the way it was transferred. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I would value this legal advice about as much as you paid for it. But this is unprecedented. And they've got caught in a lot of the way it was transferred. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I would value this legal advice about as much as you paid for it. But this is unprecedented. And they've got caught in a lot of shenanigans. I don't want to go through that right now. But the Ripple, I think, has a very bright future because they seem to be making loads of cash without their primary market, the US, available to them. But there are headwinds. From a macro perspective, a lot of people are not understanding the risks that we're coming up with. Inflation is not the problem here. It is stagflation. As you mentioned, I called this back in 2020. Okay, you have rampant inflation, which is
wait, Reggie. Let me just go back. So you've answered the Ripple question. Now we're going to your 12 to 24 months outlook, or
no? I'm actually giving a macro environment of which Ripple operates in. So
okay.
I'm going to explain the quick.
And we got about 5 minutes left, too.
Excuse me?
I think we only have 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to rush it. So basically, you dropped interest rates, you printed a bunch of money. The natural result without an increase, a requisite increase in economic activity would be inflation. Okay, but that inflation was exacerbated because a lot of people think that this is somehow demand side inflation. It is not. Okay, it's structural inflation because supply chains were halted.
So very interesting there. Then XRP Ultimate Money Flow, UMF is presenting a similar level and structure to the flow of money to XRP. Similar setup is in progress, and historically level -32 was the launch pad, a possible breakout to the descending trend line. XRP is structurally ready to rocket. Very true. So this was in March of 2017, right before it exploded 80x in 80 days. Hit this pink level, went back up, and once it broke out past these prior highs, bam, went right through. So even back here was like the overall bottom. Here was a huge explosion. And then we finally got down to this level. Even in 2020, the March COVID crash, we didn't get to this level, but now we're at this level. That's why that video, the XRP explosion incoming, it seems like it's very realistic, because we're in the same scenario back here to here, and the 12-day buy signal that flashed here is now first time flashing here as well too. So insane. Things could really turn fast here. So banks in Lebanon will close next week after a series of heists as armed depositors attempt to withdraw their own money. And shit's crazy across the world right now. A lot of bank runs going on. And then huge confirmation for Quant. European Central Bank has chosen Nexi Group to develop a front-end prototype for making payments with digital euros. Everything you need to know about the Quant plus Nexi relationship, it's right here. We're not going to go into that. But how does halving affect BTC? After the first and third halving, we see parallel moves. So let's see. This was 2013 to 2016 halving. This was the 2020 to halving back here. So halving happened in May of 2020. Then we went up a ton, just like back in 2013. This was 51 weeks, bam, 58 weeks of retracement. 58 weeks of retracement, and then pre-halving bull run. So that we're in that phase of the pre-halving bull run. The fourth halving for Bitcoin is set to happen May of 2024. So usually the year before the halving, we start to go into a nice consolidated uptrend to reach the all-time high before that time period, and then we absolutely explode. During this time period, though, with Bitcoin, that doesn't mean that altcoins can't run crazy. And I would expect something like that to happen. And then there's a reason PolySign sold out in 60 seconds on Link 2. Once you have atomic settlement via 2 central banks, the game is over. Every other central bank will follow. Let's hear it.
I'd say the third line of our business, which doesn't get much attention or press, which is very important to us, is something we're calling Polynet now, which has to do with building a settlement layer for a broad range of asset transfers that really spans the globe between analog and digital. And if you can envision a world where one would want to trade fiat for a fractional interest in a VC fund, or a tokenized interest in a private company, or a digital interest in a security of some sort, or fractional interest in a real asset like a building. All those different trades are happening today in respective islands or silo marketplaces. And we want to stitch those together and build a settlement layer that will allow for instant atomic settlement. We don't want to store assets on our blockchain that we're building, but rather provide a mechanism to memorialize different aspects of a transaction and replace trust with truth in bilateral transactions, and to facilitate that in a way that benefits both the buy and the sell side.
So that's going to be like a next generation custody solution that institutions will feel comfortable kind of partnering with for holding their digital assets. Then they have the liquidity up by Ripple to source digital assets fast. So like they're building up the infrastructure, and then once they're all ready, it's going to happen very fast. So another month, another update of our CBDC tracker. The CBDC landscape is continuously evolving with new CBDC projects being announced frequently. In our recent update, we capture, amongst others, there's been some updates. So let's see it. Research, proof of concept. So pretty soon, I would expect all this green to be purple and for all the purple to be yellow. Things are fully heating up, and China looks like they're going to go from pilot to launched. We're so close. We're so close. And then we got coming up on Monday, so this upcoming Monday, the BIS Quarterly Review brings you an analysis of financial market developments and topical research on a variety of themes. And then live on Twitter, it's chat about Bitcoin ETFs, Ripple SEC case, White House framework on digital assets, and more. This is Perry in DC, Chamber of Digital Commerce. This is 26 minutes though, so we're going to skip that. Then XRP, let's see this. So in the context of pursuing violations of the U.S. security laws in the crypto asset space, at least one defendant has challenged the SEC authorities to use voluntary cross-border cooperation agreements to obtain evidence during the pendency of litigation. In rejecting that challenge, a magistrate judge in the SDNY noted that SEC's viewpoint that this cross-border cooperation is critical to its mission of protecting the investing public and maintaining fair and transparent global market, and concluded that the SEC's use of foreign requests for assistance is permissible and not an affront to the court's jurisdiction. SC versus Ripple Labs. As part of the regulatory authority, the CFTC designates contract markets or registered swap execution facilities that offer derivatives on digital assets to U.S. customers. So in the past 4 years, the CFTC has brought 24 cases involving some sort of fraud connected with digital assets. Separately, digital assets, including Bitcoin and other cryptos, are often used as a form of payment to fund fraudulent enterprises, including those involving more traditional financial. I don't know what this was all about, but we're going to keep going. The U.S. Department of Treasury today published 3 reports pursuant to Sections 4, 5, and 7 of President Joe Biden's executive order of ensuring responsible development of digital assets. And then VeChain partners with UCO Network to build blockchain infrastructure for the biofuel sector. We know the White House launched their thing. And then there's a high probability in my mind that the market at best is going to be kind of flat for 10 years, sort of like the 62 to 82 time period. Let's see.
Bias for 45. Financial markets.
It would be a great time for digital assets to gain a lot of steam if the stock market were to do this. So let's see.
First of all, full disclosure, I've had a bearish bias for 45 years that I've had to work around. I like darkness. When I look back at the bull market we've been in, financial assets really started in 1982. And particularly the last 10 years went into hyperdrive. All the factors that created that not only have sort of stopped, they've reversed. So we had a government back then with a new president who said government is not the solution, they're the problem. We had a guy who wanted to deregulate as opposed to regulate. We had a chairman of the Federal Reserve named Paul Volcker, a little different than Jerome Powell. And maybe most importantly, we were right on the cusp of globalization that led to sort of one world, a lot of productivity, disinflation. The response after the global financial crisis to that disinflation was zero rates and a lot of money printing, quantitative easing. That created an asset bubble sort of in everything. Now, they're like reformed smokers. They've gone from wanting to print a bunch of money to like driving a Porsche 200. I know there are Germans in the audience, driving a Porsche 200 miles an hour, like not only taking the foot off the gas, but just slamming the brakes on. So there's a high probability in my mind that the market at best is going to be kind of flat for 10 years, sort of like this 66 to 82 time period. But the nice thing is there were companies that did very, very well in that environment back then. That's when Apple Computer was founded, Home Depot was founded, coal and energy companies, chemicals made a lot of money in the 70s. I'm not saying whether this scenario is going to be right or not, but if it is right, financial market.
The History Ryman situation where the overall market is flat, there's some standout companies that go insane during that time. Like he said, Apple was released during that time. Just like now, like Ripple could go on the stock exchange and it could skyrocket because of what they're doing. So it's all about the next 10 years, what are the trends? And we know it's the fourth industrial revolution. So companies that are on board with that and developing solutions to manifest that fourth industrial revolution, they could be the ones that pop off. Then he said commodities, chemicals. So maybe commodities markets go up during that time. Digital assets go up during that time. So if that was a scenario, it would look good for us. Then a Fed pivot might be closer than most think. Wild how the rate hiking cycle was over and led to massive rate cuts every time the yield curve was inverted so much. So right here was inverted, and then this came up. So the rates are the blue, and then the rates blue, 10-year Treasury constant maturity is here. So when they cut down the rates, then this ends up spiking. And I believe that would mean that the market would rebound hard. So virtual assets, what exactly needs to be reported to the IRS? We're not going to dive into that. Michael Saylor, the White House Bitcoin and Crypto Climate and Energy Report is full of misinformation. The report was to undermine Bitcoin because they don't want Bitcoin. They want the cryptos or digital assets that are working with governments and central banks and the traditional system to upgrade it instead of displace it. Then I thought this was crazy. So Japanese startup Airwinds has developed the world's first flying bike. It's already on sale in Japan, and a smaller version is slated for a US release in 2023 with an estimated price tag of $770,000. Like, the future is right around the corner. Right around the corner. This is nuts. This has nothing to do with crypto, but fourth industrial revolution maybe. But this is crazy. Watch this.
I'm literally like 15 years old and I just got out of Star Wars and I jumped on their bike. I mean, it's awesome. You know, it was exhilarating. I mean, it's not vicious, right?
But just totally nuts. Then silver that's in the vaults drops to the lowest it's seen since February 19, 2018. A lot of people are taking custody of their silver. The White House encouraging further research and global coordination of CBDC. I think these are recently retweeted. So yeah, that's it, guys. That is the newsletter. Let me just see if there's anything else in here real quick. Nope. So that's it. That's it for the newsletter, guys. I think my market update has no sound, unfortunately, so I'm gonna have to fix that. So I'll be releasing that as soon as possible. So I hope you guys have a good Friday and a good weekend, and I'll see you guys in the Discord.